Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is my life. I just got back from the hairdresser. I wanted a style cut. I've never had a style cut in all of my life and I just wanted something different, something to spice up the look. And so I asked for my birthday for some money to go towards a style cut. And so this is my birthday present. My birthday's not yet, by the way. It's on Sunday, but by the time this video is out, it would have been a long time ago. So no need to tell me happy birthday in the comments. And if you want to, that'd be lovely. Great, thanks. But it's not my birthday, so it would also be unnecessary. I, for a long time, have known different bits and pieces about my illness, but also didn't know at the same time. So it's really confusing because, as a lot of people may know, things have been very up in the air, particularly with everything that I've been going through. And if you've just found my video and you don't know any background, I am so sorry. This is not gonna be the video for you because this is just for my followers. And if you wanna watch it, fine, but you're gonna have no understanding of the context. But if you are new, hello, I'm Amity Gilmour. I'm a singer-songwriter and I also struggle with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and now also Systemic Vasospastic Disorder that we don't know much about. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have anything like that because it just does not, I do not present in a way that has been documented before. And I think it has, but it's only been documented like little % of the time or something like that. I don't know. It's just, it is so complicated. So everything I'm gonna say in this video is still up in the air. And I think like I've been holding back from making this video for so long because nothing has been clear, but at the same time it has been. So how do I explain this? Doctors can only say so much without crossing lines if they don't know things for sure, but they do try and give you the best information they have based on medically what is going on. But when there is like no clear-cut medically researched answers to a condition that I am dealing with that doesn't even have a name, everything is so up in the air. However, that being said, there are medical things that we know are happening and there are medical risks that we do know are happening. However, those things cannot be stated clearly, but can be alluded to, if you get my gist. There has been doctors who have, well, one doctor in particular who has said it like it is, and obviously I was not ready to hear it at that point. And now over the years, or not years, over the months, it's not been that long, over the months doctors have been alluding to that very same thing a bit more. And I just thought I wanted to, I guess, specify the length of what I'm actually dealing with here and what it means. And I haven't shared it to the fullest length of long term because I still feel like we don't have the answers. So this video is going to seem very, I guess, unfinished because this is an unfinished case. We just don't have all the answers, but I do just want to highlight what is actually going on for me because I was not ready to share what I'm sharing today until today, and I'm ready to share because I feel like it's very important for me to put out there, I'm very hot, I'm gonna take this off, put out there the reality of what I'm facing, because the reality of what I'm facing is really difficult and I definitely did need that time to process it, but at the same time I feel like it's part of my story and part of something I want to share now. And I want to share it because I want to share, I guess, because I feel like without sharing it, the things that I do, the way that I fight, just doesn't have the full picture of what I'm actually fighting, what I'm actually up against while I'm trying my hardest to pursue music, something I've loved as a child. But I think to get the full picture, and I want to share that full picture because I want to let you guys know what is actually happening. I do now. I didn't at the start, and I knew that there would probably be a time where I would feel comfortable sharing it, and I have told myself that I am only sharing these things as I feel comfortable, not as it's happening. So With that being said, it's a systemic vasospastic disorder, which, as I said, and I have mentioned that before in my posts, but I've been very blasé about the, I guess, logistics, the specifics. But my entire vascular system is having major issues pumping blood. It is too weak. We have many different suspicions. Some people think it's because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. When I mean some people, I mean some of my specialists suspect that the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and the elasticity of my vascular system is just too weak, that it is causing this phenomenon. Other people just don't know for sure, like just don't have a clear-cut answer. Everything is just, not everything. We do know some things for certain, but some things are just not that certain, and I will let you know the things I'm saying that aren't 100% certain. So whether it's caused by Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, whatever type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome it is, that is not certain. I'm on the waiting list for genetic testing, which is something that is so rare in Australia, to be on the waiting list for genetic testing. A lot of people in Australia who get genetic testing for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome go private. I cannot afford to go private. I do not have that money. I'm going through the public system. I have had doctors tell me they have, like my doctors particularly, but doctors in emergency rooms, they have never met someone on the waiting list personally for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome genetic testing. That is how rare it is to be on the waiting list, that you have to practically almost die. I'm not even joking. You have to almost die before they consider putting you on the waiting list. So because of last year and my stroke-like symptoms and everything else that was going on, I was put on the waiting list. Surprise, surprise. So I'm now on the waiting list to figure that out. What is actually happening long-term? What can I expect? Now, unfortunately, we still have so many things we don't know. But one of those things that I guess we do know is my blood vessels are really weak. They have very poor tone, which is something we have tested for. It has come back with, like, poor tone. And what this is causing is it's causing the vascular system to freak out when the blood is not pumping properly. Whether it's a vascular system that's freaking out and causing it, whether it's a heart that's freaking out and causing it, or whether it's my neurological system freaking out and causing it, we don't know. We just know that something in my body is really not happy with how hard it is for my arteries to pump blood and my blood vessels to pump blood. It's freaking out and it is causing the blood vessels to overcompensate, which is causing vasospasms. Now, vasospasms, my blood vessels are constricting. So they're spasming and constricting and cutting off quickly, not a long blockage, is not enough to be called a blockage, but it is cutting off blood supply, delaying blood supply to multiple organs. Now, some of my doctors, this part is unclear, but some of them think that it may be why my gut has been so bad and why, like, organs have been bad. They think that maybe this has been a problem from a long time. It's just been very low key and it's just been getting worse. Again, we don't know if it just presents as progressive. That's what it's presenting like. That doesn't mean it's progressive though, because again, we don't know if it's progressive, but it is presenting as a progressive condition. Again, we just don't have the research to be able to say that. But like, now, this being said, when blood supply is cut off to organs, it can cause over time tissue death and cause that organ to fail. Now, I'm gonna say word for word what one of my doctors said last year, which put me in a bit of a shock, but anyway. He said, think of it this way. If your blood vessels cut off to your hand, over time that causes tissue damage to your hand and you lose a hand, and you can live without a hand, but this is happening to your heart, brain and lungs. This is pretty severe, as you can understand. Now, knowing this, ECG is showing very small signs of ischemia to my heart. We have CT evidence of low perfusion, or like not enough blood getting to parts of my brain. So what is going on is my organs are being starved of oxygenated blood when this phenomenon happens. It is causing stroke-like episodes and is causing major chest pain. Here's where things get difficult. So, knowing all of this, the reality is I'm at risk of having a heart attack or a stroke at any time if those arteries or blood vessels spasm for any longer than they are. This is really scary to know. Also, knowing that it seems to be acting progressively, although I have not had any evidence of a stroke yet on any of my scans, I am at risk still. If this keeps getting worse, the risk gets even higher. Now, that being said, the risk isn't like always there, if you get what I mean. It is there when I'm having a vasospastic episode, but on days like today, I am not having a vasospastic episode, meaning there is no risk for stroke or heart attack at this present time right now. It's more just when I have a vasospastic episode, it puts me at that risk. It is not just the heart and the brain that is causing an issue. So obviously brain, if that happens to the brain, it causes stroke for too long. Like if it happens to a heart, for too long, it causes a heart attack. But it also happens to my gut, which can cause tissue death in my gut. It can cause, so I have to be very careful with my gut because some of my doctors, not all, believe that the fact that my gut is the way it is, like, hey, sorry about that, my camera died and I had to pop it on charge. So what I was saying, my colorectal surgeon does believe, or at least has a suspicion, that my gut motility, particularly the colon motility and bowel motility, is the way it is because of a lack of blood flow to that specific organ. So that is also a reason people are suspecting that may be an issue. There's just so many layers to this. Now, I've talked a lot about medically what is happening. What is happening in terms of non-medical? What does that mean for the future? What does all this mean? I am very cautious to talk about what it means because I fully don't understand myself. Other than things I do understand, but it just doesn't feel real because although it's been alluded to and it hasn't been stated in a way, this is what's going on. It's all just like, this is what we have to watch out for. It's very careful language that has been used by my doctors and my medical team, but basically means exactly what's going on. So what does this mean? Well, I was being treated. I finally found treatment. It was going really well, which meant that although last year I was at high risk of life-threatening complications, treatment was going well all of a sudden, and I was out of, I guess, the red zone, which is not a actual medical term. I'm just saying red zone. I'm out of that part of how bad it was. But here's where it becomes a little more tricky. Yes, I was out of that danger, but then treatment has been getting worse. We have had to up my medication multiple times to correct it, and it just keeps progressing at what seems to be a really fast rate. It has been up and down. There are days like today where you would have no idea what is going on inside of my body. And then there are days where you can definitely tell something's up. There are days where my skin is so white and patchy and I just look like a deathly ghost. And those days, I have filmed on those days little shorts, so you can actually see days on my shorts where I do not look good. I am not hiding that part of my life. I am very much creating videos sometimes on those days just for fun, to keep me occupied and do stuff also to promote my music. There are days where I post a video and I look back at and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I even film? And then I realize, oh, it's because I want to be real and I don't want to just pretend I look like this all the time, because I never look like this. My hair has never looked like this in my life, by the way. This is, for those of you who are new here, this is This was my birthday present. This is my first ever style cut. I feel like I'm moving up in the world a bit because I've like finally got a style cut. I feel like, oh, I'm spending big girl money on stuff like this, which is just ridiculous. I think because for so long, I've just been struggling to pay medical bills and a whole bunch of other stuff. And rent and important stuff. This is not important. This was definitely to the back burner. I've never had this before. I'm only just in a little bit of a better financial situation now where I can do this. Also, I didn't pay for all of this. Part of this, a large quantity of this was birthday money. So that being said, last year's birthday, I spent my birthday money on medical bills. My birthday money. Anyway, that being said, we're getting a bit off track. So trying to remember where I was up to before I got, so I don't look like this ever. I'm actually like, ooh, but I also just don't look healthy or nice 100% of the time. I look healthy or nice sometimes and then other times I don't. It's so episodic and so up in the air. Things are progressing, which is very unfortunate. Well, they seem to be progressing very fast, very rapidly. We are trying to keep up with medication. When I have my bad days, I've just come out of a really bad week. I feel so great today because the last couple of days I was not good. My heart was really bad. My ECGs are not good again. My ECGs were actually really good and now they're not anymore. And they've gone backwards to where they were last year, which is not good. I've had severe chest pain all week up until I think my last day of chest pain was Sunday. And then after that, I haven't had chest pain. But this is the reality of what I'm living with. This is what's happening. And I am living with a ticking time bomb. I am living with a life-threatening condition. This is no longer I live with EDS and it's a pain to live with, but it's technically not terminal or technically not life-threatening. I say technically not life-threatening. Obviously, a lot of people know that different types of EDS can have life-threatening consequences. Also, the vascular type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is life-threatening in itself. However, at this point, I have not been diagnosed with the vascular type. There are suspicions. I, for one, do not feel as suspicious as some of my specialists do feel suspicious of. My suspicion is it might be something like classical, but then again, it could just be hypermobile. I could have gotten the right diagnosis from the beginning. We just don't know. However, if that's the case, it is not just EDS that I'm dealing with right now. It's no longer just life-threatening. Complications can come up, but it is not that common as other conditions. I can still live my life. So many people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, particularly outside of vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, live so long. It's fine. It will be okay. No, we are past that point. I am now living with something, whether it is vascular EDS or something completely entirely different alongside of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I am living with something life-threatening. Again, it doesn't have a name. It just, we know what's happening. It's a vasospastic disorder. Again, don't know the specific disorder, but it is life-threatening. I am at risk of, finish the sentence. And I feel like I've alluded to that in my videos, but I haven't actually just come out and said I live with a life-threatening condition. I can die at any point. I don't want to say any point because obviously I need to be having a vasospastic episode in order to be at risk, but I can also have a vasospastic episode at any point, which is what's happening. So technically that is true, but I'm just very careful about what I say online, what I say medically, just because there's so much crap online and so much things people say about different things that aren't medically tested and true. And so that's why I'm very careful about what I say. But I've only been giving information as I know is medically accurate. And in this point, there are things that are medically accurate and then things that are medically suspected but not proven. And that's where I'm coming out and telling you guys that those things are suspected but not medically proven, but highly suspected. So yes, I am living. It is no longer a suspicion. I am living with a life-threatening condition, and that is the reality. And so what does that mean long term? Because again, there's only so much I can say that I know for sure. I don't know what it's going to look like long term. At the moment, we're just focusing on managing the best we can, and that is helping some of the time and not helping at all other times. It is so difficult. I think also another thing we're suspecting is that the cold is making everything worse. As you can know, people can literally have heart attacks and whatnot from arteries constricting in cold water. So cold, as someone who is susceptible to arteries constricting, you can understand would be very, very difficult. So as the months get colder, I do have to be more careful about keeping warm, making sure that I'm all rugged up, and making sure that my heater is on in my house at all times, which is expensive, but do I want to die or live? Sounds dramatic, but it's literally the reality. I have to be careful about going out in the cold on a winter night. I have to make sure I'm rugged up. There's just so much to think about. There are so many triggers that we don't know are 100% medically accurate as a trigger, but I have to be particularly careful of caffeine. I have to be a little bit careful of, it seems like some days it's a trigger and some days it isn't. So nowadays I'm sticking to decaf where possible. There's just so many different triggers to think about, because there's that, but then there's also a possible trigger of when I've overeaten or when I've overall undereaten. It's just anything can trigger. Excessive exercise. All these things I have to think about just to keep alive at the moment is so crazy, and things that you would I would have never thought of before. And thankfully, people don't have to think about this, but I do. I have to think about this in order to remain alive, which is crazy. And I don't wish this upon anyone. I really don't, because it's so hard, especially when you don't have all the answers, where you know it's life-threatening, but you also don't know, you haven't been given a timeline. No one's come out and said, oh, you can expect the condition will take you in the next year or the next 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. Or no, there is no information in order to give me an accurate prediction. So what does that mean for me and how I live my life? Well, I think that for me, I've just come to the realization that I'm just gonna live my life to the best I can, no matter what. I am gonna die when I'm gonna die. That is the case. That is the case with everyone. Everyone is gonna die one day, and they're gonna die at the right time, which sounds really, really terrible to say, but I believe that what is meant will be. As a Christian, I believe that I'm not going to die any moment before or after the time that God has allocated me to, I guess, die. As a Christian, I also know that death is not the end. I know that there is life beyond death and perfection and beauty and all of that. And so I'm not afraid of the next chapter. I'm afraid of the process of getting there, obviously, as anyone would be, but that is just the reality. And at the same time, as I'm saying all of this, there is also still a chance that I could live until my 80s, 90s, 100s. There's so many options and chances. You just never know if they find a cure or if they medically stumble across something that just keeps me alive and to the best of the ability. There's just so many factors. Also, as a Christian, I do believe that God heals. Do I believe that he heals all the time? No, I don't believe that he heals all the time. I wrote a whole song based on that, as you know, or if you don't know, I did, on the fact that God can heal, but he chooses more often than not to heal, and that's hard and difficult to understand, but that's just the reality. And I feel like I'm going on tangents now and I'm talking all 100 kilometers per hour, but this is just the reality that I'm dealing with. So I'm going to continue to live, continue to do what I do. Obviously, it's not going to be something that I'm just going to continue to live as if nothing's happening. No, that's not the case. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I literally was so naive, I would have said that. I'm pretty sure you can look back at my videos and I would have said that. I'm pretty sure. But after last year, I understand that when you are so sick, you just can't you are affected. Whether you like it or not, you are affected. You can't get out of bed some days and you just have to deal with that, and it sucks. And I don't want to sugarcoat it and be like, you can do whatever you want to do, whatever you put your mind to. There is a limit. There definitely is a limit. But the beautiful thing about adapting is it can be so tailored to not just the individual person, but the individual person's circumstance in that moment, because our circumstances change all the time. There are days like today where I can go out and get my hair done, and there are days where I can't. All these things are so up in the air. So I'm going to continue to live my life, try and continue to do the things I love, my business, music. I am transitioning my business at the moment. It's going to focus less on products and more on supplies for other small businesses. I'm not gonna get into 100% what that means yet, but it will be catering towards small businesses, particularly small businesses who deal with medical products, and also small businesses that deal with non-medical products as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited about the way in which my business is about to pivot, but I'm just trying to evaluate my business and trying to figure out how I can make it easier on me, because there are days I just cannot keep up with demand. I cannot sit upright at a sewing machine and sew for hours on end. I just can't do that. Not even for half an hour, not even for 15 minutes sometimes without having to lay down. So I'm pivoting my business a little bit to focus on more the supply side. Again, I will get into that a bit later, and I'm really excited to share with you what I mean with that, because I'm just honestly so excited. I am in talks with manufacturers about stuff, and I'm just like so excited. So my business is going to take a pivot. My music will continue. I will continue to write songs. I don't spend too much recording my songs. A lot of the time is going back and forwards with the producer. He does a lot of the work. I will record my songs when I need to in my studio, which is right behind this mirror. I will do that. That is fine. I can do that on my good days and then send it off. I think what people don't realize is so much of my music at this stage is done on the phone, going back and forwards with my producer. I don't like this part. Maybe we can change this part. Writing music, I can do in bed. If I'm in bed, I got my guitar, whatever. I will still try my best, because music was always been my first love in terms of things I love to do and passions. And it has always been something I've wanted to pursue. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future. I want to try and travel and do performances. We will see. I don't want to be naive and be like, I'm gonna do it regardless. I understand that things may look different. It may even come to a point where I have to solely focus on a music career online rather than in-person performances, or maybe do some in-person performances. Maybe I'll never get to tour because of my health. Maybe I will get to join other people on tour once off. Maybe I will get to tour. There's just so many things that are up in the air. At this stage, I can travel for music and can do things. But again, everything is up in the air. And I don't want to be like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do all these things and I'm not going to be impacted one bit, because after last year, I am no longer naive in that area. I'm still naive in some things, but we're always naive for everything until we experience it. So anyway, I am going to get going because I've rambled long enough. But I don't know how long I have. I could have weeks, months, years, decades, not a century by this point, because I've already, if I lived a century, I'd be 120 something, and it's possible, highly unlikely though. But anyway, I love you guys. Bye.